Welcome to Lower Austria. Lower Austria is one of the regions in the middle of Europe, and in the center of Lower Austria there is the capital city of Austria, Vienna. And so Lower Austria is a region with a lot of rural landscape, and on the other hand also a lot of industry and very diversified industry. If you want to come on holidays, you can go to the Heritage in Wachau to drink a wonderful wine looking over the river of Danube and relax yourself. Our industry is very diversified and we have a lot of SMEs. More than 98% are SMEs in our region. And we have some of our applied universities spread all over the region of Lower Austria. And with Vienna in the middle of Lower Austria, we have a long tradition of universities and know-how here in this region. So that is the point why we initiated this project, to combine these two things, to take the knowledge out of our universities and to provide a technology transfer, a commercialization of R&D results. And to look into that, we chose a very elaborate model with 8 steps and dimensions, where we made a benchmark of our instrument in all the regions of this project to see where potential instruments are and where improvements can be made. The Technology and Innovations Partners is a program together with the Chamber of Commerce, where the program managers go into the companies and talk to them and come up with ideas how to implement innovation strategies in these companies. And we wanted to foster that and implemented in this project a pilot action called R&D and I portfolio, where the program manager looked in depth into the innovation potential, the R&D possibilities and the ways and the possible paths these companies can go into the future. And we have had a really good feedback from the companies, and a lot of companies are now applying to get these sort of discussion process with our program managers. On the second, we have our R&D funding scheme we wanted to improve and to see how we can foster the application in this program, because the application numbers dropped in the last years. So thank you to our Finnish partners. They had a best practice, a good practice called innovation ecosystems, and we took it and we asked a lot of questions, and we were in Finland to see how this is implemented, and started the pilot action here in Lower Austria with 2 platforms or 2 innovation ecosystems in the field of bioeconomy and aerospace. And now we are in the phase of building up these networks. Due to the problem of Corona crisis, there is the problem that we can't do it personally, so to implement a network and to get to know it's harder than in normal days. But due to the good program managers we have, we will see that in the end of this year we will have the first projects out of this. Thank you to all the partners for the open discussions, because it's very important for me to have a lot of experts who are discussing really openly the problems and encourage to do new steps to implement new measures, to implement new instruments in our regions. So thank you all for participating, and thank you for the collaboration and the good open discussions with you.
So, welcome to all of you today to this final event of the InnoBridge project. My name is Sevdalina Voinova, and I have the pleasure to moderate the event today. We've been working together, partners from 8 European regions, for nearly 5 years now. We've started with 3 years of intensive interregional exchange and self-reflection to see how to better support SMEs and innovations in our regions. And after these 3 years, we've been working now for nearly 18 months to implement the action plans with measures improving our regional mix of policies to support SMEs, to support innovation, to have better performance, to be more competitive, and at the end of the day, to provide better standard of life and better prospects to our citizens. So now we are ready to share with all of you what we've learned, what we've achieved, and that's why we have entitled this event, you're all attending now, Streamlining Public Support for SMEs and Innovation. We think it's a decisive moment to reflect on and regroup our public support for innovation and particularly to the SMEs, which are the backbone of our economies. Because the COVID-19 crisis showed that resilience is necessary. And based on this resilience and sustainability, we could build a real development in the region together with innovations. But for that purpose, we need vision, we need brave actions, we need leadership in everyday decisions. So these are some of the issues we try to address today. We, together with all of you and our distinguished speakers, we will be looking for answers to questions like how to combine the long-term vision with the flexibility of day-to-day decisions, how to make the results of research and development easily available to SMEs in our regions, how to supplement structural fund support with other instruments so that innovation is community-rooted and community-based, how to mobilize the existing skills in our regions and how to foster the skills necessary for the future and retain our human capital. And not least, what has proven over those years to work? What are the most successful factors? Is it better regulation? Is it less bureaucracy and red tape? Is it better links between industry and university? Is it focusing on behavioral change throughout society? These are some of the issues we will be looking for answers, and we'll be looking for your input today. Before I introduce our distinguished speakers for their opening address, let me make a few housekeeping announcements, because this is a hybrid event. It's online as well as offline here in Sofia. So please keep yourselves muted and keep your camera off for this part of the event. For the second part, when you go into the interactive breakout sessions, you'll be able to work face-to-face and see each other and talk to each other directly. But for now, we would need a better and more efficient connection this way. And secondly, please note that this event is being streamed online via the YouTube channel of the InnoBridge project, as well as via Facebook. So if you'd like to see the privacy policy, you can see the address and you can check it for yourselves. And now it is my greatest pleasure to introduce and to give the floor to the Mayor of Sofia, Mrs. Jordanka Fandakova, for her address to all of us participating today.
Ladies and gentlemen, it is with great pleasure that I welcome you to the InnoBridge conference dedicated to innovation for SMEs in Europe. I would have been very glad to welcome you in person to our wonderful city. and to offer you an opportunity not only to discuss and share ideas, but also to see for yourself the progress that Sofia has made in this important field in the past 3 years. I firmly believe that the personal contact, that sharing and communication with people is very important. With its many universities, students, research centers, and more than 20 independent software schools, Sofia can count on a highly qualified human capital. People are the real asset and the real treasure of our city, and especially young people. They're very ambitious and full of energy. They speak many foreign languages and feel at home with the new digital technologies. A visible proof of this is the increase of the turnover in the IT sector in the past 6 years, which has risen by over 150%. Many leading companies in the world have relocated their research and development centers to Sofia. With my colleagues and the city administration of Sofia municipality, we have created and introduced new instruments in support of innovation and SMEs in Sofia. Among them are the Sofia Public-Private Innovation Fund, Sofia Lab, the Startup Sofia Accelerator, which we have developed actually within the InnoBridge project. I would like to extend my special thanks to the team of Sofia Development Association for their work on these initiatives and the successful implementation of the InnoBridge project. I'm convinced that the conference will be very productive and will generate many new ideas on how to cope most effectively with the impact of the health crisis and the economic crisis caused by COVID-19. In this respect, the small and medium enterprise sector and innovative solutions coming from the industry are critical for a speedy recovery. But it is also important to ensure that the next multi-annual financial framework will provide access to and sufficient resources for innovations, and especially in support for SMEs for further investments and development. I would like to extend my gratitude and appreciation for all of the work and dedication by the conference organizers and the partners from the InnoBridge project. I wish you all a successful and inspiring event today.
Thank you, Mrs. Van der Koeven. We're really grateful for your involvement, not only for the nice words, but also, more importantly, for your involvement in this and other similar projects. Because the effect these projects have on our city really depend on the buy-in of the local decision makers and how much we make out of it. So thank you again for assisting us to make the maximum potential that InnoBridge project allowed for Sofia. And I can only join you in saying that we're really, truly sorry that we cannot welcome all of you today here in our beautiful city. Because at the end of the day, the approach of InnoBridge project and the approach of Interreg Europe are place-based policies and policy mix. So it would be nice to be in the place and see how this policy mix shapes up and how it strengthens the local community. And that is why programs like Interreg Europe are so appealing to European regions. And we really hope we would have similar programs in the future in the next framework program. So it is my pleasure now to introduce Mr. Etienne Verel with Interreg Europe. He's a policy officer there. So let us know, based on the experience that you've already gained through this program and many projects like InnoBridge and others, can we draw by now some conclusions? Can we really draw some lines about strategies and efforts that are place-based and how to involve the SME needs into this local and regional innovation strategies? Etienne, the floor is yours.
Okay, thank you very much. I hope that you can hear me and see me well. Thank you for the kind words, for the hard questions. I'm not sure I have all the answers, but maybe indeed a couple of them in this short presentation. First, I would like to say that I'm, of course, sorry that due to the circumstances, I'm not able to join you in Sofia today, but at least online, so it's still something. And I hope that I will answer some or partly the question that you were asking me just now. Just before I start, really, just to give you a brief overview of what Interreg Europe has been doing for the past years and how we support InnoBridge, but also other projects, and as a way of presenting a little bit the program. So we have indeed the first pillar, let's say, of Interreg Europe is indeed supporting projects all over Europe, 258 projects in 4 calls, which with a total amount of 322 million euros spent in this project, and 88% of the NUTS2 regions in Europe covered in one way or another by this project. So it really says that indeed all these places in Europe that you were mentioning, all this innovation, but not only innovation, but all these elements that we try to push for better policies in Europe, all regions in Europe, almost all regions in Europe are indeed covered and are able to exchange experiences, good practices, in order to improve their policies. A couple of words on the outputs as well. It's always impressive, all these figures. I'm always impressed by all these good practices that were exchanged, that were promoted by the projects all over Europe, with almost 3,000 good practices still available on our website. Half of them have been stated as so interesting that our experts also wrote additional elements on this and tried to disseminate them a little bit further, because they really have a possibility of dissemination quite important. Also, 12,000 people almost that said that thanks to an Interreg Europe project, actually the skills are improved. And you were mentioning the skills just earlier, and I think indeed it's important as well to learn more through this project. And on a very technical basis, we have almost 900 action plans that were designed, meaning that all these project partners that exchange, that learn during the first phase of their project, now in the second phase, and that's what InnoBridge has been facing for the past year and a half, it's how to define an action plan, develop it, and then implement it. So how what you've learned, you will put it into practice. And here again, we have already 900 action plans, meaning 900 roadmaps in all regions of Europe to develop and to implement new policies. Another other output that are really interesting is indeed the policy change. It's really the core of Interreg Europe. We aim at pushing projects to improve or develop new policies. And for now, there has been a report of 402 policy changes. And it's always interesting to see how much money we put in this project. It's 161 million euros. And with these policy changes, they managed to actually influence 600 million euros. So there's almost a 4 times leverage effect, meaning that, again, €1 that we put in one project, they will manage, thanks to improving the policies, thanks to opening new calls or changing the definition of a policy instrument or supporting new projects. At the end of the day, there will be 4 euros that will be improved, influenced, thanks to the learning of the project. I was mentioning, so the first pillar of Interreg Europe, which is the project, and the second pillar that we shouldn't forget, it's this policy learning platform. So it's a team of experts that are supporting projects, but policymakers in general, all over Europe, especially the one actually that are not part of one project. So they don't miss the learning that has been accumulated with a project. If you're not part of a project, you can still join the policy learning platform and benefit from the services. For example, the peer review, it's something that is so interesting. It's a kind of a project, but not on 5 years, where sometimes you don't have time, but it's very condensed on 2 days with experts coming to your region, or if there's a COVID, then doing it online, and then helping you to face and to overcome a challenge that you can have in your region. A good example actually taking place in Sofia last year in June 2019. We had a research agency that contacted us in order to improve the centers of competence and centers of knowledge that are developed currently in Bulgaria, and asking for a little bit of support, how to better handle it, how to better improve the way they can manage these centers. And indeed, we had peers from all over Europe that came to Sofia with our experts in order to help them in a very limited time frame, 2 days, but very condensed and with very interesting results. I was mentioning COVID. Of course, COVID has impacts for running projects, but also, of course, for all local authorities and people and citizens and companies all over Europe. For projects, we have a couple of measures that we put in place in order to help them overcome these challenges and still go on in the exchange of experiences. But for other policymakers that are facing now new challenges, we also selected good practices that were already identified by projects that are fully relevant for this new situation. And we have more and more thematic activities online in order to help you tackle the issues that you can face when we talk about SMEs facing financial difficulties, when we talk about low carbon economy as a way to diversify a little bit your local economy and to make it more resilient in the future. So we have, again, a lot of things, and I invite you clearly to have a look at our website, interregeurope.eu, so you can have also a look at what we can do in this matter. Now going a little bit closer to InnoBridge and what InnoBridge has been doing so far. So we have 53 projects that are working as InnoBridge on innovation delivery. As you can see on the map is fully yellow, meaning that there's a lot of connections on this topic, so vast topic of innovation delivery. There's a lot of regions that are actually involved in one project on different subtopics. On this innovation capacity itself that InnoBridge is specifically tackling, we have 16 projects that are more specifically working on this, whether it is Industry 4.0, advanced materials, or advanced manufacturing, or how to bring innovation as well to rural zones. For InnoBridge itself, we've been proud to see that it's not always the case, but that the website of InnoBridge is really active, and it's good as well to show what the project is doing and how to disseminate as well what has been done in the project. And what is really nice as well is that on all of the good practices that you uploaded and that you found interesting, identified during your exchange of experience, 8 of them have been identified as especially interesting by our thematic experts. So I think that shows as well the relevance and the interest of your discussion during these years of the project. But of course, more important, more than the outputs, it's of course the results. And here I have to say it's really impressive. Few projects managed to have such impressive results because you have 7 policy changes, meaning that 7 project partners managed to improve the policy instrument they were addressing, and they were trying to improve in a way. Well, 7 of them managed, which is almost the whole partnership, with more than 2 million euros that have been influenced thanks to these improvements, and almost 1 million euros of other funds. So 2 million euros of EADF and 1 million euro of other funds, and especially it's the case in Sofia. What is also very interesting is that you managed to improve these policy instruments in so many different ways. Either it's improving a voucher scheme, for example, in Hungary, that's the case. So how to make it easier for companies to ask for this voucher scheme, how it's easier to complete a little bit what they actually need. In Finland, there was a new call open to support open innovation platform. That's something that was not fully supported yet in Finland. And in Bulgaria, there's different way that actually you try to improve the way this Sofia Fund for Innovation was implemented on the ground. And it's both the support for new projects mostly. So with this Balkan Hackathon that took place, I think, last year or 2 years ago, the Startups Accelerator, again, a call for open innovation project, which is really a hot topic as well now in Europe, and a startup guarantee program. So it's also interesting to see that actually all project partners of InnoBridge try to push for the changes that they could see the more relevant for their own region. And you were talking about the place-based development and thinking, and I think indeed it's really interesting as well to see that all these changes they happened by different way, by the study visits that you organized, by peer reviews. So I know that some of the project partners presented their challenges at meetings and said, okay, I have this issue. What can you propose? What can you suggest? And other project partners were giving feedback. And I think that's also a good way to improve at the end of the day your policy instrument. So I think that's nice indeed to have these different ways, like different outcomes of the results, and also different ways to actually achieve these results. Just a few words about the future, because you said, grateful for this, that indeed this kind of approach is relevant for a lot of regions in Europe. And I'm, of course, very happy to hear it. Interreg Europe will still support regions in the next programming period. It was not the case in the very first European Commission regulation 2 years ago, but thanks to the European Parliament and the Council, Interreg Europe is back in the regulation. We started in December last year the programming process. It continues, it goes on, even though now it's fully online. But we're still communicating with the partner states in order to work on this new program. There's still a couple of things to finalize, and not minor ones, especially the total budget that will be allocated for the program and exactly how the regulation will look like. But we already know a couple of more details. So it's not a revolution, which is good. At least you know what you can expect. It's still going to cover all regions of Europe, so it's still going to be pan-European, except the UK. The objective will still remain similar, so it's really much about regional development policymakers as a core target group, and how to make sure that they exchange experiences in order to improve their policy instrument. So the main focus will still be on capacity building and improvement of skills. The new thing that will probably appear, it still has to be confirmed, but we are working on this way. It's to focus a little bit less on structural funds, so to allow as well cities, for example, to focus not only on the regional operational program, where they don't sometimes have full impact, but more actually to work on a city strategy or on a municipal fund, where you can actually have more direct influence. The second thing is learning by doing. There was no pilot action for InnoBridge in the sense of Interreg Europe, but we actually would like to push it a little bit further in the future. So to make sure that you were saying about place-based exchange, well, also the fact that you should try sometimes and try to implement something to see if it works, and from that learn and see what you can do. So really as pilots, but already do it a little bit further as really a learning process in the course of the project. And one last thing that we hope can work as well is so one single priority in the program, meaning that not having a program tackling different thematic objectives, but one common thematic objective, a meta objective on capacity building, and then allowing actually regions, cities, policymakers all over Europe to actually suggest projects on more topics than what we cover actually. Actually, we cover innovation, SMEs development, low carbon economy, and energy and resource efficiency. But then with this kind of meta approach of supporting capacity building in general, then we could actually support as well more projects on employment, for example, that we don't fully cover yet, or digital innovation that is partly covered only. So hopefully the next program will be even more interesting than the current one, and we're still going to support innovations and projects, and more importantly, policymakers everywhere in Europe. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Etienne. Thank you for showing that Interreg Europe is more than a funding program. It's actually a learning and an exchange community as well, and you can make as much out of participating there as you want, as you're willing to. I'm very much encouraged by what you say about the future of the program. and particularly the flexibility you seem to allow in the future, as well as the cross-cutting collaborations. So I absolutely agree. If you want to do something innovative, we absolutely have to provide some safe space for failure as well. So I really hope in the new program period we would also fail a little bit together in order to succeed big time. So I think, in a way, our experience within the Bridge project is leading along that way, and I'm really, really happy to introduce to you our very own Kerstin Koren, who is the project leader, the project manager, and also she is with the legal representative office of the government of Lower Austria. Kerstin, it's been a pleasure working under you on this project. Tell us where this project fits in the overall trend in Europe, and more particularly in the Interreg Europe scheme and frame that Etienne said so well. The floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Seftalina. From our side, from the project coordinator, I want to give a warm welcome to every one of you. And especially I want to thank the team of Sofia, our partners from Sofia, who handled this challenging situation where we didn't even know in July if it's really a physical final conference or a virtual. That you managed it very, very good. So thank you very much, Seftalina and your team, that you did such a good job. And also thank you for Etienne for these nice words that and sharing our experiences and our outputs of the project. So who are we? I want to go through some slides where I show you what have we done and what was the aim of the InnoBridge project and what we achieved. So who are we? We are 9 partners of 8 regions, and you see they are covering all of Europe. So experts of the field of innovation and commercialization of R&D results from these regions started in this project working together. The objective was and is to enhance this commercialization of R&D results, which is now in the crisis of the COVID crisis one of the key issues in economic policy, in my opinion, because we will see that these SMEs and these companies, which now are innovative, which now can commercialize these R&D results, will overcome the crisis and will grow after this crisis. So we are at least I'm very proud that we managed to come up with improved instruments, with improved knowledges, and to overcome the crisis. So I took a quote of Henry Ford. Coming together is the beginning. That was the beginning in Lower Austria, the first conference we did together. Keeping together is the progress. So we work together and keep together, and then now we start in the middle of the project really working together. And that was really successful, as Etienne showed you in the previous presentation. Because thanks to all of the partners and the experts from the regions, we had open discussion about all the things we have to do in this project. I will talk a little bit about what we really did. One thing was that we thought, I have some images for you that you see all the partners and experts of these fields. We shared good practices. So we took the good practices in this commercialization of R&D results and to show it to the other partners. On the one hand. On the second hand, we have a peer review, an evaluation system where we said, okay, we have some instruments we want to improve. So please help us, discuss with us. And due to the really huge knowledge of all the experts, these open discussions led to a lot of improvements in our instruments. And so now, in the second phase of this project, we are implementing them with pilots. So the two things, on the one hand, sharing good practices, on the other hand, this open discussion and the peer review of our instruments lead to an improvement in our regions. On the third thing we managed to achieve in this project is that we also get to know these best good examples really in depth. So we went there and to see how it really works. Like Lower Austria, we went to Finland to look into the depth of platform instruments and so on. So each of our region can really get into contact, ask the questions. So we don't have to do the same to overcome the hurdles more better than the others. That was really very helpful for all of us. And there are the results. Each of our region has now an action plan, which means that we are piloting these changes. There are some good practices, and we have these learning events where we learn from each other. I want to thank all of the partners for these open discussions we have had. So, and hopefully we will progress, and if we have some questions, we will also phone each other, because we know each other now after these years very well. And coming to the end, we also then thought about what should be the surroundings of that. What are triggers that innovation is taking place? This commercialization of results is successful. And we have come up with some policy recommendations, like this conference now. It's innovative for public administrations to have these kind of virtual physical conferences. Come up with this customer-oriented role in this public administration, and Sofia is one of a really good example of how to implement customer-oriented role in these administrations. Or to get to approaches and tools towards a more balanced development within regions, and establish a technology and innovation broker system so that the stakeholders can come together. So with these policy recommendations, we are now going on outside of the project to see what we can foster in the future, so that our innovation system is getting better. Our regions are developing better because of these improvements. And so in the end, I want really thank you all the partners for the participation, for the openness, and that you send your experts in these groups, so we really can come up with new improved instruments and a lot of more knowledge.
Time to see who are we, all of us together, participating in this conference. Let's take a moment or two to see a little bit of information about all of us together. Let's see a map of the world, not just of Europe, showing where all the registered participants come from. You might be surprised. If we were really physically in Sofia, we would probably have participants from the partner regions. But now you see we have 108 registered participants from 14 countries and 29 cities. And we also have from other continents, not just from Europe. So thinking on the bright side, we could broaden the scope and the reach of this project this way. Apart from coming from so many cities and countries, let's have a look at the experience that is brought together around this event. What are our participants working? What is their profession? What are the organizations and the institutions they represent? So we could see that. You could see that most of the participants today come from universities and research and technology institutes, as well as regional and local authorities, relevant non-governmental organizations, managing authorities, business organizations, university students, media, and some mystery others that we don't know, but would like to hear more from you in the breakout sessions. Finally, let me also tell you guys that are joining us online that we're here physically in Sofia with a group of people that you could probably see in a moment here in Launchy Studio in Sofia. You could probably see us in a little bit, and if not, you will see us later during the, here is the group of about 20 people. Nice, we'll be setting up our own breakout session later on when we delve deeper into the topics. And now, in order to get full benefit of this diverse experience that we have today in this final event, let's take a very quick poll with only one question. So you'll see one question, you see actually the question on your screen, and the question is, keeping in mind how COVID-19 crisis affected SMEs, policy responses should. So it's a multiple choice question. Please pick up the answers that you consider most relevant. Please vote now. Choose the answers that you consider most relevant regarding policies for SMEs. They should be enhanced and diversified. They should focus on longer-term approach. They should go hand in hand with investment in climate protection and digitalization. They should be decentralized, or they should remain the same. Are we ready? Okay, you continue to vote. Please do this quickly. You're experts. Right, we'll close it now. Let's see. Okay, so see that there is probably the number one response is that policy should be enhanced and diversified. But this is not so important. The most important thing is see how many people voted for the last option, remain the same. 0. So if there is one thing we all know, if there is one thing we've learned from the time when we were playing video games, this is the fact that if you don't do anything, this is the easiest chance for you to get terminated. So the same principle applies here. If you don't do much, if you remain the same, it's very unlikely that you are going to be competitive and your region is going to be competitive in the near future. We are really in a decisive moment when we have to rethink and regroup and reschedule. Based on what we've learned, this is what we want to delve in our real serious panel of this final event today. So let's start. We have really interesting speakers today with us. We have different perspectives from academic background, from business background, from managing authority background. And we'll start again with academia, because first things come first. Our first speaker today is Christian Lechner, professor at University of Bolzano. And we would like to hear from Christian, what is this thing that we call entrepreneurial ecosystem? What it consists of, and what is the interplay there? Christian, the floor is yours.
Okay, thank you very much. I hope you can hear me well.
Before you start, and this is, you can, to all the participants, you can use the chat to write questions to all the speakers today, to Kerstin and Etienne from the opening session, but also to all the speakers that you will hear now. Use the chat, send your questions there, and we will have some time at the end to respond, which means speakers, please be precise in your time. Give some time to the audience to ask you their questions as well. And now, Christian.
Okay, thank you very much. Morning, and the topic of today is to talk a little bit about entrepreneurial ecosystems and the interplay of institutions, which is actually pretty much a bottom-up approach, which I would like to refer to, of what we have experienced here in the region of Bolzano. Now, why are we talking about all this? To put it in the frame, let me see what, okay, sorry. Obviously, we're here because we all know from research that entrepreneurship, there's a relationship between entrepreneurship and economic growth. This is why it has become a policy, a point on the policy agenda. And within this, we have this idea of entrepreneurship ecosystems. And also this has become kind of a policy measure. So Daniel Isenberg, who came up with it, and then there's a lot of research on this topic, is the idea that to foster entrepreneurship, we need different elements. So we need financial actors, venture capitalists, business angels, we need cultural impactors, journalists, and icons which drive an entrepreneurial culture, support organizations, corporations, obviously. And then we have the part of the educators, so the universities, and obviously policymakers. Now, in this system, we kind of have these elements, and policy is working of creating these elements, and it seems almost that it might be sufficient, once that we have these elements, we have a functioning ecosystem. Now, within that, there's obviously the role of universities, which is important, but then the interplay that universities have with others. Now, what you see here on this map is you see a map of the United States with a lot of little black dots, and what these little black dots are is the distribution of biotech firms in the United States. What you can also see is, if you know where these places are, that these biotech firms, they're all located around strong universities. And what is true for biotech is mostly true for most technologies, that competitive regions have competitive universities. And you cannot actually borrow the competences of a university from another region. So I think one important message is that all regions that have universities need to some extent develop some centers of excellence, and it doesn't make a lot of sense to completely centralize the excellence in universities, because what we know from research is that technology startups cluster around the university. So if you don't have a strong university, you might have a problem. The other point is, what happens actually if pieces in an entrepreneurial ecosystem are missing? Because this is the case for most places, because once that you have an ecosystem in place, well, you say, well, everything's done, but what is if you need to develop one? And I put in the bottom, well, one question is coordination versus redundancy. So there might be a tendency to say, okay, let's create an institution, and they will try to combine all the elements without having the competences, without having necessarily the resources, and then another institution will try to do the same. So we get a lot of redundancy instead of coordination. And one important fact concerning entrepreneurial ecosystems is that to make them live, the different elements need to be coordinated, but there need also be an interaction between the institutions that represent the element in entrepreneurial ecosystems. And for that, I choose the example that we have lived here in Bolzano. So on one hand, we have University of Bolzano, InnoBridge, which has become an education partner, but not limited only to what the university is actually doing. So we have a master in entrepreneurship innovation, but we also have created what is called Studium Generale, which is teaching entrepreneurship for citizens And then we have the Neutech Park, which is our technology park here in Bolzano. And together with them, we also have set up an education for the pre-incubation program where very young startups actually enter into that. All this has become possible because there has been a really collaborative approach in public administration by the province of Bolzano and mainly the Office for Innovation. So there was a real interplay between institutions that allowed to set up the first set of activities. And one of the first activities that had been developed between in collaboration with the university and mainly the province was the call for startup capitalization, because Bolzano was a region in which business angels were supposed to be there, where we didn't have really equity financing. So one question was how to be able to stimulate that. And this is especially important since venture investments, if you look at this chart in Italy, compared to GDP, is very, very low. And this is equity investment. If we look at business angels, another problem of Italy is, if we look here, is that we have countries with a very effective business angel investment. So where most business angel investment is visible, so people know where the business angels are because there's a business angel network. And so we have an organized business angel investment, like in UK, in France, in Spain. And if you look at Italy, most likely there are estimations that the biggest chunk of business angel investment is actually invisible. So one of the topics is how to make the invisible visible, which is how to get to know who these business angels are, and maybe how to get them organized, given the fact that in the region we don't have a business angel network. And out of that was born the fund for recapitalization of business angels, which was set up by the province, where basically the province, once that one has won the competition, matches up to 200,000 euros the sum that the business angel is ready to provide. And the idea of the measure was, on one hand, to attract business angels, but to make them visible, because once that they're known in the province, once they're known in the region, it's easier to contact them. They will get more projects. More projects means better flow of deals and better projects, and as a consequence, stimulation and attraction of business angels, which might also help to create an official business angel network. And by having the business angel which needs to invest first and the province which follows later, it allows also the public administration to make professional decisions without professional cost. And so this matching fund was born, which was a great collaboration and interaction, where the province obviously was leading, and institutions like the universities were helping in designing the instrument. Now, this interplay actually has led to something very interesting, because business angels got interested in that, local business angels got interested, and what has actually happened is that we now have the Tyrolean Business Angel Network, which was created, and I've talked to the founders who set it up, which were entrepreneurs, and they said, well, we got interested in, and we saw that Bolzano is a place, because there is this call, we saw that people are investing, we saw that interesting projects are happening in the technology park, and through this approach, and as a consequence, we thought it would be worthwhile to go there. Furthering this collaborative approach in public administration, apart from the call of startup capitalization, the Neutech Park, the province and university came together to set up what is called the Founders Grant, which is something really interesting for young founders, and it's the latest innovation that the province actually has set up. Is the idea, very often we see it with students, they have very good projects, and then, when they finish the university, what they need to do, they need to go out and work, because they have sustained until that point by their parents, and the parents obviously, they push them out to go to work. And so a lot of interesting projects actually get abandoned. And so the province came up with this idea of a founder's grant, which is kind of a minimum salary for startups. So again, there's a competition which is organized by the tech park with a jury where you present your project. And if you win this type of competition, the young funders get in the pre-incubation program where they get teaching formation, and they will get a minimum salary for 6 months of 1,000 euros, which is extendable to another 6 months. Which, if you think about it, it's a relatively small measure, but it allows young people actually to concentrate on their project, to test out the project, and keep on going. And I think it's one of these missing pieces with relatively little effort, which makes a huge difference. So what I'm trying to say here is that it's not only sufficient to think about the elements, but what really is important is that the elements really work together. And by working together and collaborating together, you might actually also be able to stimulate the attraction of pieces that are actually missing in an entrepreneurial ecosystem. So to wrap it up, there were different objectives, you could say, that were part of the project. One is clearly internal flow of talent, and the other one is the external flow of talent. And overall, hope it's working. What has been realized over this time, and it still needs to develop further, is that in the first place, we needed to educate talent, we needed to nurture talent. The financing of startups, which was not an issue, I would say, 10 years ago in the region, and then finally fostering innovation. And all this happens when the institutions interact, because you find enough dedicated people that really want to work together. So to finalize it, in emerging ecosystems, not elements are present, and they're not independent, but the interplay really creates value and might attract the missing elements. And the public administration can play a central role in fostering innovation processes, not through a top-down process, but by a real interaction process between the different institutions. So thank you very much for your attention. And now I will...
Thank you, Christian. Thank you for this provocative question-based and practice-based presentation of the ecosystem, and particularly focusing on the missing links. Actually, we are going to hear about, from our next speaker, from Pilar Garcia, particularly about the missing link, or we could also call it a weak link, Pilar, I think. This is the link between business or industry and university. And this has been one of the particular focuses of the innovation-based work in the region of Castilla and Leon. And Pilar Garcia is the Deputy Minister for Universities and Research in Castilla and Leon. Pilar?
Well, thank you very much. I hope you hear me okay.
Yes.
And first thing, I would like to say hello to all my colleagues there, and allow me to say something in your languages, like bon dia, buongiorno, bonjour, guten morgen, dobro utro, jo regel kinovak. I think that is very important for us, because we actually built a very important network, all of the 9 of us that were working in this project of this Interreg program of Europe. So then allow me also to thank you, the organization of this event. Thank you, Sebdalina. You actually look splendid, and it's very nice to see you there and hosting this event. So the organizers are absolutely excellent, because they had to adapt to a complex period of threats, but also of opportunities. I was very glad to hear from Etienne, from the policy officer Interreg Europe, that we have a future. You have the carrot for us to continue. The coronavirus was the stick, and we had to come together, because the coronavirus actually actually ask us to do that. And by the way, I was a little bit frightened by the last screen shown by Kirstin. Hello, Kirstin, because the last screen was a little bit like coronavirus type of thing, all of us working together, the companies and the business and so on, but a little bit there in that kind of the structure of the coronavirus. But I think we actually work together quite well, and we organized something really innovating and fruitful. Now, dear colleagues and dear authorities and audience, thank you very much for the Mayor of Sofia, Ms. Fantakova, for greeting us. And I would really, I'm very sorry I missed the opportunity of visiting Sofia for the second time or third time, because it's a fantastic city and I would have liked to go there. But nevertheless, we've got technology, which is something important as well. So it is a great pleasure and honor to be here, and special thanks also to Europe for giving us the opportunity to share with the regions of the InnoBridge projects all our expertise and practices, because it has I don't know the presentation. Okay, it has been actually very fruitful and enriching. Now, here I present you our experience in COVID times, and thank you to the network we had already built with our program called TCUE, which is the TechQA program. We actually could build a link between university, business, and this knowledge transfer program that was supported by the Ministry of Education of the region where I am working right now. This was developed as part of the ERDF operational program, which means that we actually use those kind of funds to develop it, and within the framework of the smart specialization strategy. Now, what was very important is that we started working, all of us together, since 2008, which means that we had already built the network when the coronavirus hit us. And that is why we could actually react very quickly to the needs of the society when this virus came to live with us. Now, what were the strategic objectives of this TCUE network, which is a transfer of knowledge from university to business? It was basically to strengthen the links between university and business by promoting entrepreneurship and innovation culture at the university, a little bit more like what we have heard from Professor from Bolzano. We were actually trying to do something very similar with that kind of network, and also to incorporate knowledge as an asset of the regional economy. Now, which were the main areas? Well, collaborative projects between universities and businesses, which were being very productive. Then commercialization and registration of patents, licenses, and actually building in the university the entrepreneurship spirit, and also direct exploitation of research by creating new technology-based companies. Now, how did we react to the pandemic with all this network that we had already built? Well, thanks to the experience we gained in Portugal, in the Alentejo region, thank you very much to our to this project, the good practice, we decided to incorporate it in Castilla y León's action plan. So we were going to foster the different Fab Labs infrastructures in our 4 public universities of the region. Even though the network is composed of the 9 universities that we've got in the region, 4 public and 5 private, the ones that we actually developed were the Fab Lab in the 4 public universities. Now, with this support, we were actually able to answer for the needs that the society were demanding us. So, the first thing was that the University of Burgos, for example, we had developed very well, joined, we had that thanks to the Fab Lab, they joined the local network of supply for protective masks, and we collaborated together with the hospital in Burgos, and also we collaborated with the cluster of innovative solutions for independent living, which is basically for the people, the aging people, and also different local companies. So they developed something, we actually answered very quickly when there was a lack of supply of protective masks, for example, in the the hospital of Burgos. The second one was the University of Valladolid, who joined the Renault to the rescue. Renault being the big factory company that is in our city in Valladolid, and this network also was able to manufacture protective elements for healthcare personnel in hospital and nursing homes using the 3D printers. The fourth one was the University of Salamanca, in this case, together with the private university of the Pontifical University of Salamanca. They actually manufacture protection items for the local hospital, also answering very quickly to the demands of the hospital. The last one was the University of León, and in this case this was not very much developed, but together with the University of Valladolid, collaborating and cooperating together, they could actually build also some sanitary protection with the FABLA together with the local companies. As I said, how could we react so quickly to the demands of the society? We did it because we had already established a network that began to work together in the year 2008. How did we collaborate with each other? Well, normally, as also they did in Bolzano, we had programs in which there were calls and also contests in which the students and the researchers and also the business and the local companies could work together. Sometimes it was the university who proposed a solution for a specific problem, and some other times it was the company that asked for a solution to the university. Now, it's very important for us because we created this ecosystem. Eco is the Greek word for oikos, for the house. So it was very important to create a specific system for our particular house, in which also what in the innovative economic theory we call the quadruple helix: the administration, the business, the university and society were working together. Now, thanks to what we have been offered by the European officer that the Interreg programs are going to continue, we are also looking forward to building the fifth element of the quintuple helix, which is to make all these things sustainable. Now, as we can see, the experience has proved really effective in generating innovative and also in reacting quickly to what was asked from society. So in the future, as I said, we are going to continue to develop more networks and to focus on the social areas, and especially in sustainable development as goals. Now, something very important also is try not to be redundant, try to organize things in a way that everything is complementary to others. It's very important also to find, obviously, also financing programs in order to help these local companies. In most cases in our region are not only small but micro companies. We have to help them because the virus has hit enormously in our region, and we have to be very innovative, and also so we have to be complementary to each other. And one thing very important that Dalina had said at the very beginning, we need to have less bureaucracy. We have to do away with so much red tape that is actually also giving obstacles and preventing us from innovating and from streamlining in a quicker way. And of course, we have to continue working together in that sense. It was a great opportunity to work with the other regions of Europe, and I'm very happy because we could actually work together and stay together for so much time, and we hope to continue together, as also was said at the very beginning of the program. So thank you very much. I hope I stuck to the time, and I will wait for any questions that you would like to ask from us. Thank you.
Thank you, Pilar, indeed, for this exciting way of not just presenting what you did, but also drawing the lessons learned and the recommendations for others. It's been really insightful, particularly the importance on speed. And we'll get back to speed with the next speaker, but before that, let me remind you all that you could use the chat to ask questions, and there are already questions being asked and also answered. So take this opportunity to communicate directly with the speakers now. And as we mentioned, speed, we're moving now to geographically to Hungary, and we'll hear from Katalin Barna with the Hungarian Ministry of Finance, how Hungary managed to restructure and regroup structural support for SMEs in times of crisis. Is speed important there? What were the important things of combining the long-term vision and the short-term resilience support? Katalin's been with us throughout the project as a stakeholder. We are happy to welcome her now on the floor. Katalin. We've
Good morning, everyone.
All right.
I think I solved the technical issue I have. Can you see my shared screen now? Or?
Yes, we can. Everything's fine.
Perfect. Done. I would like to thank you, Svavdalina, for organizing this event in online version. And I would like to welcome everyone who is participating in this final conference. From my side, I would like to show you the measures what the Hungarian government introduced regarding containing the economic consequences of the COVID-19 pandemic in Hungary. In the first part of my presentation, I would like to focus on the big picture, the overall situation, and in the second half of the presentation, I would like to show you some specific measures we have launched in this last month. So first of all, about the general situation in Hungary and the Hungarian economy. The second wave of the pandemic arrived to Hungary at the end of August. For this second wave, we used the lessons learned from the first wave, and the government has renewed the strategy. Now this time, the strategy has three main targets. To save lives, restart the schools, and relaunch the economy, which stopped for a while in spring and in the beginning of summer during the first wave. About the budget of the country, according to the forecast, it seems to be expected somewhere between 7 and 9% of the GDP in 2020. As we think, it's something similar to other EU member states. It's like the average expectations. For this, on the 24th of June, Hungary has established an economic protection task force, which is responsible for restarting the economy in Hungary and putting it on a growth path and creating new jobs. As the slogan says, we are creating as much jobs as the pandemic destroyed. The main tasks of the force is to identifying and eliminating the administrative rules and burdens, which are slowing down the economy and making the situation of the enterprises harder and harder. So the main goal of this time of the year is to eliminate the greatest risks while we are limiting economic activity, and we are putting life as normal as possible. The protective shield for the Hungarian managing the pandemic situation. Hungary has launched an economic protection action plan, which was announced in the 6th of April to respond on the economic decrease situation. And these measures was launched by the central bank. For this action plan, we have three big funds. The first of it is a disease control fund. The second is an economic protection fund. And there is a third one, fund for disease prevention. The third fund is provided by the EU. The first two is coming from the state budget. The allocation of emergency defense expenditure until the 24th of August, the government already allocated almost 7.4 billion euro for pandemic and economic protection, and additional 1.1 billion euro on tax measures. What kind of measures and initiatives has been launched in the last months regarding the pandemic situation? I would like to put into two groups. One group is focusing on the job-related measures, and the other group is focusing on the financial financing of the companies and households. From this list, you can see that preserving jobs, creating jobs, and keeping these jobs with reduction of burdens for employees and employers as well is a main issue. And with financing companies and households, there are a lot of programs, mainly loan programs, and the payment moratorium, for example, is introduced for this month until the end of the year. Switching back to the last slide, I have highlighted with bold letters those measures which the Economic Development and Innovation Operational Program has a specific call for proposals. So you can see that we are dealing with preserving jobs, job creation, and specifically, what kind of measures does the Economic Development and Innovation Operational Program has is like this. Saying some words about this call for proposals. First of all, it's very important that this operational program is one of the main sources of financing the Economy Protection Action Plan. So, as you can see, there are 6 or 7 specific calls dedicated this situation. The first of it is dealing with SME competitiveness, which is the priority one of the operational program. There are several call for proposals in the job-related priority of the program, which is a 5th priority. So you can see that there are 4 calls for proposals in protecting jobs, in creating jobs, and there is a specific call for the R&D sector as well. And then additionally, there is the training priority, which is the 6th priority of the operational program, has a call for proposal, which is dealing with transformational to new needs of the market. And on the right side of the slide, you can see that there is a loan program which is dealing with almost all of the priorities of the operational program. So you cannot focusing on one part of it. It's an overall and a horizontal measure. It has the biggest budget of the from the operational program, and I would like to now focus on three specific cause to give you a deeper insight. As I mentioned before on the table, that the first priority, which is dealing with the competitiveness of SMEs, has a very big call for proposal, which is has the name of technology development and job protection. The eligible applicants of this call for proposal is SMEs, and the amount of subsidy is from 14,000 euro to 414,000 euro per project, of course, and overall budget of the call for proposal is 285 million euro. What activities are supported? You can see the list of the supported activities on the slide. I would like to just say some words that what not.
We might be losing the connection.
So there is a range of not on specific ones.
Okay. Приключваме тогава. Okay.
Sorry?
We lost you for a second, Katalin. So
yes, someone is calling me, and I'm working from mobile internet connections. Sorry. I hope it won't happen again. I'm not sure where you lost me. I was speaking about the supported activities. You can see the list of the specific activities supported in this frame of the call for proposal. I just want to say some words about this, that we did not want to focus on one or another activity to support. It's very important that the SME can find what is the most important for them in this situation, and we give the opportunity to choose from the wide range of activities. By the end of last week, we received almost 4,000 applications, and with the request of a very high request, which is covering the 90% of the whole budget of the call, and it's very interesting as we see from the side of the SMEs. They are very focusing on this call, because there is a very wide range, and it's very fast in administrative way. The other thing which is important.
Can I ask you, Katalin, to just very briefly finish up with the other measures?
Okay. Then I would like to focus on this. Is a very new thing we introduced, that it's not a non-refundable fund at the start, but at the end of the implementation, it can turn to a non-refundable fund based on the successful implementation and an evaluation made in the maintenance period. There is a training program. In the last part of the slide, you can see how this is built up. You can see the budget as well. The main aim of the call for proposal is to transform the transformation, support the transformation which is the labor market needs. You can see some trainings which is supported. As you can see, it's more like ICT connected professionals. And my very last slide in some very small words. This is the loan program, which was introduced before the COVID crisis started. As we see, we added an extra supported activity to this loan product, and the budget was raised. Now supplies and operating costs are also eligible in the framework of the cost of the call for proposal. And what is important, that the own resources decreased to 0%, and it's financed from the temporary framework which was introduced in connection with the virus. So thank you very much. Sorry for the time limit.
Thank you for this. Yeah, I know you have a lot to say, because there are a lot of measures that you support SMEs with, and that's wonderful for your quick reaction. You probably noticed that some of these measures are focused particularly on skills and skills development. And we'll be hearing from our next speaker from Poland, from the Małopolska Center for Entrepreneurship, Sofia Bendrzik-Mikuli, particularly focusing on their efforts on how to raise and mobilize existing skills and how to nurture the skills for the future. Before I give the floor to Sofia, let me ask all the speakers to stay online, because there are some questions to them in the chat. So I hope we'll have some time to answer them. So please, speakers, try to be brief. Let's provide some time for interaction with the audience. So, Sofia, the moment you're ready, we are ready for you.
Hello. Hello, good morning. My name is Sofia Mikuli, and thank you very much for your invitation. Well, it's a bit more difficult to speak online, but well, I think there's one positive outcome of COVID situation. The technology that let us meet online is developing super fast. So maybe if we have another conference sometime in a close future, we will be able to wear virtual glasses, and we will actually be able to meet together virtually in one room and discuss it easier. But well, to my presentation, I will try to tell you a little bit about how we are trying to mobilize the existing and build future skills to create bridges between science and business in our region, in Małopolska. So briefly, where we are, Małopolska is a region south of Poland with 3.4 million inhabitants, 380,000 enterprises. These are mostly micro enterprises. So as we already heard before from one speaker, these are the enterprises that were hit mostly by the COVID situation, but we are trying to work with them as well as in other countries. We have 160,000 students in Małopolska, 29 universities, and almost close to 500 research units. That is our potential. So there are few main assets that we have. First, it's a great scientific potential. Another asset is a strong startup community. It's because we have so many young students, mostly in Kraków. And well, we have Kraków, the top tourist destination and the place that attracts not only tourists, but also business. So what we were trying to do in Małopolska, we were trying to build some sort of entrepreneurial ecosystem, as it was said in the previous presentations. And this entrepreneurial ecosystems we built on few pillars, let's say. I divided into pillars dedicated to different groups of recipients. So first of all, I will tell you about this program in Małopolska Technology Becomes Business. This program is mostly dedicated to young people, to students, and to startup community. And we launched this program in 2013. And since then, we've already supported 120 events with over 100,000 participants during these events. I will just very briefly tell you about what we are supporting. Well, we are supporting some events organized by NGOs, but we also support some long-term programs which are launched by different institutions. So about the events, NGOs events, we have a very nice, very interesting event in Krakow, the event called Smogathon. Well, in Krakow, as in many cities in the world, we do put a lot of effort to fight with the air pollution, and we actually invited the Smogathon project to come to Krakow. The Smogathon project is about teams that are competing in finding technological solutions to fight with the air pollution in different cities. And then the final was in Krakow, which was very interesting, and we welcomed it very warmly. We obviously had some TEDx conferences, we had digital first conference, but what else I would like to tell you in this pillar, I would say dedicated to young people, we have a very strong pre-acceleration and incubation programs for startups. We have strong startup community, so we are trying to support them as much as we can, and we are trying to support students from our region, but not only from our region, to support them in setting up their businesses. So we have like Digital Dragons Incubator, because there is a lot of interest in video games, in creating video games among young IT students. Another pillar of our entrepreneurial ecosystem, I would say, is a pillar dedicated to entrepreneurs and dedicated to research centers. And this is a pillar connected with innovation brokering. With the SPIN project, we established a model of collaboration between science and science institutions and entrepreneurs. And we established 7 knowledge transfer centers to provide services to entrepreneurs and to scientists from the universities and research units. There are 7 centers, just because we have 7 smart specializations in Małopolska, so we were trying to establish a separate center for each smart specialization, so it could focus mostly on the entrepreneurs and the research centers, which are in the field of specific smart specialization. In addition to this project, to the SPIN project, we have introduced an initiative called Innovative Safari. Well, we call it Safari just because we are coming to different places, and we are coming with different information, different in the meaning that there are different fields of smart specializations, and we are trying to get entrepreneurs and the representatives of research centers from one smart specialization at the time to provide information what the research units are offering, and to enable some networking, obviously, as well. Another pillar of our entrepreneurial ecosystem is the pillar that is dedicated to even younger students, the high school students. We established a project, a program, actually it's a long-term program, Małopolska Educational Cloud. It's a program to involve students from high school, as I said, and introduce them to the world of science and innovations We equipped 130 high schools with a very modern IT equipment, and there's the same equipment at the universities. So the students from high school can have online, in real-time lectures and discussions with the university teachers. Also, the best students are coming for 2 weeks camp to Krakow to work with university teachers on scientific projects. This is just to open students' mind to innovations, to new technologies, and to just make them interested in studying science.
Thank you, Sylvia. I know that we all have a lot to say about our regions, but all the resource materials will be also shared with all the participants.
Okay.
So thank you for now. Let's give some opportunity to the participants to ask questions as well. But before that, let's see some example from another region and toss to the floor Raimund Mitterbauer with the Chamber of Commerce of Lower Austria. And Raimund is going to switch the perspective from events and skills and to their specific signature project, which is called TIP, and how to foster innovation in SMEs. So, Dr. Raimund Mitterbauer, are you with us? TIP has been one of the good practices of the region of Lower Austria, so most of us have first-hand experience with it, with their research and development and innovation portfolio and their step-by-step assistance to companies. So probably Raimund is going to present it much better than me, but as a head start, let me tell you that it's about not just about ready-made projects that come to be supported and financed, but rather about future projects and the way from now to launching a project. This has been one of the important elements of the ecosystem for support of innovation and SMEs in Lower Austria. And it actually has been also taken up as a good practice implemented by other regions. So they've been able to show us some interesting examples. I remember that when they were in Sofia, they showed us one of the innovations that's being developed through this tip, and it's been pencil with a metal, with a what was it? With a magnetic part that you could stick to different metal surfaces. So there are probably very many other innovations. Are we ready to include Raimund? We seem to have a little bit of technical mix-up with connecting Raimund, so we will switch the line and we'll have Daniel Janeiro, the manager of Evora Tech Park, talk with us about their experience in Evora and Teledejo best practice, Evora Tech Park. We've already heard that this has been taken up by Valladolid. So Daniel will be happy to hear from you more about your good practice.
Hello, everybody. Sevdalin, I don't think this is my presentation. I should share the other one, right? Because I'm seeing here the Castilian Leon.
Yes, we'll change it, but...
Okay, it should be me doing it. Oh, wait.
Yes, it seems it's okay. So we can hear you, we could see you.
Okay. Okay, can you see it now?
Yes.
Okay. So thank you very much, Sevdalina. So directly from Évora, Alentejo, Portugal, I want to greet everyone, speakers, partners, audience, and to congratulate our Sofia partners for the organization of this conference, which unfortunately cannot be happening presentially. So from our side, I will speak about one of the... Sorry. So I will speak about one of the identified good practices within the InnoBridge project, which is ours and is the Evertech Fab Lab. Most of the partners had the opportunity to visit it, first on the inter-regional workshop, which we organized in Evora. So it was part of the study visit, and then some partners on the staff exchange, which happened 2 years later, and they were able to see the Fab Lab activity with more detail. And I think we also helped Castilla y León to get inspired to create also their own Fab Lab. So first, just to give you some context, this Fab Lab is inserted on the Evertech, technology-based business incubator. So this business incubator was founded in 2014, and the Fab Lab was founded on the same time. Both of them financed by the Alentejo Regional Program. So about the Fab Lab, I think most of you know that what it is. So basically, it's a place where you can do almost everything, like we used to say. I think not only us, I think most of the Fab Lab community around the world says it. So our Fab Lab, it's open to everyone on the community, and every week we receive the visits from academics, entrepreneurs, and other creatives. In this place, they are able to make prototypes in a very easy way, with the support from our engineers and with almost no cost. The main aim is that all the projects that are made in Evertech Fab Lab stay there so that they can be shared with other creatives, which will replicate them and even improve them. So we understood that this could be identified as a good practice. So, like I said, in this Fab Lab we have 3D printers, CNC milling machines, plotters, and laser cutting machines. So, and this last one was a start on the beginning of the COVID pandemic, because it enabled us to help the community by producing face shields, by cutting acrylic boards. So in a total, we produced and delivered around 4,000 face shields. And so, last but not the least, I want also to show some plans for the future, which is the action that we identified in our action plan. So I'm talking about the accelerator in critical technologies and energy and intelligent mobility, which is already being built. This will be a natural extension of the already existing incubating services of Evertech, but in this case, it will be dedicated to the acceleration phase. So obviously, we also want to improve the already existing machinery on Fab Lab, but the main aim is that we later want it to be a recognized digital innovation hub. So, well, that's it. Many thanks for this opportunity and for your attention.
Daniel, give our regards to our favorite ant farms that we saw there in your Fab Lab. We will make another attempt to reconnect with Dr. Raymond. Let's see if this could work at this point. We hope that we could connect this time. And here from Lower Austria and the Chamber of Commerce and their innovative service that is called TIP. Well, in the meantime, there are a couple of questions in the chat. Some are being answered already. I'm afraid we won't have much time to have now verbal interactions with the speakers. We will probably do this after the break. Okay, so a final call for Raymond. Unfortunately, we're not able to connect with him at this point. Well, it's technologies, it's cross-border event, so we will give it another try after the break, with which we will be going into a coffee break now. 10 minutes of coffee break. Let me make some announcements. During the coffee break, you here on the main stage on this channel, you will be able to continue to see some of the regional videos that we have produced, showcasing the InnoBridge experience in each and every of our regions with our lessons learned and our achievements. So please take some time, see the videos now or later at the end of the conference. In the meantime, after the coffee break, you should get connected to your breakout session that you have chosen. You have received the link together with the instructions yesterday. For your convenience, the links to all the 3 breakout groups will also appear now in the chat, so you could join the groups just by clicking the link there. And we also have a physical breakout session here in Sofia. We can, yes, we can.
Okay, we had a small, big problem with the microphone.
Oh, okay.
So now it works.
I've just announced a coffee break now, Raymond,
Yeah,
but we'll be, but we could, I mean, you choose. Do you want to go now?
I think it will take 5 minutes.
Wonderful.
If I am,
Wonderful.
Okay, then we.
Thank you. Thank you for being so resilient.
Yeah? Okay.
Yes.
Okay, you can see my screen?
Not, yes.
Not yet. Ah, yeah. Here it is. Okay, let's start after solving the problems. Okay, hello from me to all attendants. Hello from Lower Austria. To keep it short, first, you would, I think you would know who we are. Who is TIP? We are a joint initiative of the Lower Austrian Chamber of Commerce and the Lower Austrian government. And mainly we do funded consulting. We have the possibility to spend some money for companies when they need a consultant or a R&D institution to solve some problems. We do individual innovation coaching with companies, and we have some additional services such as patent research or information on standards and so on. We are also part of the Lower Austrian support system. We as TIP are trying to provide the basis of this innovation pyramid. Then you have specific clusters that are dealing with, for example, building or mechanics or life science and so on. And then you have in some cities the so-called technopoles, where you also have education and you have R&D institutions. You can look at our homepage to find out more what we are doing. What was the objective of our project, the R&D and I portfolio? Why did we develop it? The typical situation when we get in contact with a company is that they have an actual project and they need some assistance. They are trying to get funding for this project or other things. But it's the actual project, and for sure they are interested to solve all these things that are related with this project. But for us, it's also interesting to look at the future, to look at the ideas for future projects that the company might have. So with the knowledge of this project, it's possible for us to talk about assistance in advance, to point out if there would be a possible funding possibility for the company, or if we know about partners that might be interesting for the company, both on the on company side and also on the R&D side. That was the idea, and we tried to do it by making a template where we can gather all those informations that are relevant for the company, for the future projects, but also for the surroundings. Why did we do a template for this? Because also it is then possible for the colleagues that have not visited the company to get a course idea of the company's strategy. I've pointed out things here that are relevant, such as the description of the core business of the company, future trends in for their business, and also if there are problems, if there are resistances or restricted resources. And mainly we try to figure out a portfolio of the future projects where we had at least 3 dimensions. First of all, the timeline. When will the project be finished in terms of reaching some kind of innovation readiness level that is very similar to those technology readiness levels that you might know. That on the y-axis you find these existing competences in terms of the innovation readiness level, and the size of the bubble represents the strategic relevance for the company. So we figured out this scheme, and the output was that we could make 41 interviews with companies based on this R&D and I portfolio, mainly in the year of 2019. We found out a little bit more than 100 approaches for innovation projects, and the interesting thing was that about 1/3 of the projects were longer term, were a realization horizon of 4 to 5 years was specified. That we could also reach this, that to talk about the future projects of the companies. Yeah, and then I tried to put all those projects in one portfolio and see if it's realistic. What's the outcome here? And you can see that for sure short-term projects have more strategic relevance for the companies. It's no wonder, but it turned out that there's some consistency between the kind of talking to the companies and the outcomes. Last but not least, an anonymized example that you can see that you can also see some consistent strategy from the company when you look at the R&D and I portfolio. I was talking to a small electricity producer producing out from hydropower and also solar energy. The company is working as a regional electricity network operator, and they also are doing electrical installations both on the B2B and B2C side. The relevant trends, no wonder, smart meter, Internet of Things, energy optimization and energy management for sure, also upcoming smart grids and concepts for regional energy distribution, and interesting thing, also ambient assisted living or care for elder people. The actual project was that the company is doing an application for national funding on equipment, on components for smart home equipment that are using optical fibers instead of copper cables. Interesting thing that suits to their electrical installation work. If you follow that path in the future, they tried to expand this actual project to regional energy management, and for the far future to use also this information that they get with their smart home equipment for implementation of carekeeping systems. So I could see that with this company, it's really a consistent strategy or path in the future. We had other companies where it was not so clearly view of the strategic options, but okay, that was our findings in this
Thank
project.
you, Raymond. Always
Very
well that
short.
ends well,
Okay.
as Shakespeare once wrote. So it was really nice to have you with us after so many difficulties. Sorry about that,
Okay.
but these are the risks of digitalization that we're all taking up now. So once again, a reminder to all, we are going into a coffee break. Your breakout session moderators will be waiting for you 5 to 10 minutes from now. And I leave you in the very capable hands of Lavinia from Bolzano, and Tina from Tampere, and Thomas from, I assume, St. Pölten. It's coffee break now. See you in 10 minutes in the breakout sessions.
ago, for example, universities were more based on teaching, and now universities are more based on research. They're not only universities, they're also research centers, which is also very important for us. But most of the, let's say, lecturers, professors, assistants, and most people that are going to the teaching process in the universities are now, of course, very much interested in research and transfer. I must say that from the point of view, from the part of the universities, there's a lot of interest in the transfer programs or the transfer projects, but we must arise that interest in the business. Because I think some of them, especially in the region of Castilian, because they are, the businesses are small or medium sized, it's very difficult for them to think that innovation is going to be part of their future.
El Fab Lab de la Universidad de Valladolid es un espacio de innovación y aprendizaje, un lugar para crear, aprender e inventar. Pertenecer a la red Fab Lab significa conectarse a una comunidad global de estudiantes, educadores, tecnólogos o investigadores en un intercambio de conocimientos que abarca más de 30 países y 24 zonas horarias. La misión del Fab Lab es proporcionar un espacio de fabricación digital que fomente la innovación dentro del entorno social de la Universidad de Valladolid. Actualmente despliega 5 objetivos fundamentales: fomentar el desarrollo de nuevos productos, servicios y experiencias, democratizar y dinamizar el acceso a herramientas de última generación para el desarrollo físico de ideas, incentivar el perfeccionamiento de prototipos funcionales orientados al mercado que resuelvan necesidades presentes en la sociedad, desarrollar un ecosistema de innovación en el entorno universitario y la sociedad en su conjunto, y contribuir al aprendizaje de nuevas competencias clave en el contexto de la formación universitaria de alumnos, profesores y grupos de investigación.
We decided to take part in InnoBridge because opening up to new inputs is always a good basis to improve innovation and research. We were convinced that sharing experience and best practices with other regions about policies could allow us to improve our instruments and methods supporting innovation. It's always challenging to exchange with other contexts and point of views, because it allows one to estimate whether some things may be done differently. A key point is also the opportunity to create networks and collaboration with other European partners.
InnoBridge has been a very interesting project because it enabled us to come into contact with other contexts and instruments supporting innovation. The exchange with the European partners reinforced our idea that fostering the cooperation between enterprises and research institutes is a relevant means to support innovation activities and R&D projects. Calls for proposals launched with ERDF funds fostering and requiring such cooperation have proved to be appreciated by the beneficiaries over the last years. This can be seen in the increased number of applications of R&D cooperation projects submitted. For our territory, this type of instrument has been lately particularly successful because we also have a university in Bolzano, the capital city of the province, and many brand new laboratories at the recently opened technology park. This type of infrastructure is the ideal location where research and business come together. The physical proximity and availability of both human and infrastructural resources foster such cooperation.
Welcome to Lower Austria. Lower Austria is one of the regions in the middle of Europe, and in the center of Lower Austria there is the capital city of Austria, Vienna. And so Lower Austria is a region with a lot of rural landscape, and on the other hand also a lot of industry and very diversified industry. If you want to come on holidays, you can go to the World Heritage in Wachau to drink a wonderful wine looking over the river of Danube and relax yourself. Our industry is very diversified and we have a lot of SMEs. More than 98% are SMEs in our region. And we have some of our applied universities spread all over the region of Lower Austria. And with Vienna in the middle of Lower Austria, we have a long tradition of universities and know-how here in this region. So that is the point why we initiated this project, to combine these two things, to take the knowledge out of our universities and to provide a technology transfer, a commercialization of R&D results. And to look into that, we chose a very elaborate model with 8 steps and dimensions, where we made a benchmark of our instrument in all the regions of this project to see where potential instruments are and where improvements can be made. The Technology and Innovations Partners is a program together with the Chamber of Commerce, where the program managers go into and talk to them and come up with ideas how to implement innovation strategies in these companies. And we wanted to foster that and implemented in this project a pilot action called R&D and I portfolio, where the program manager looked in depth into the innovation potential, the R&D possibilities and the ways and the possible paths these companies can go into the future. And we have had a really good feedback from the companies, and a lot of companies are now applying to get these sort of discussion process with our program managers. On the second, we have our R&D funding scheme we wanted to improve and to see how we can foster the application in this program, because the application numbers dropped in the last years. So thank you to our Finnish partners. They had the best practice, a good practice called innovation ecosystems, and we took it and we asked a lot of questions, and we were in Finland to see how this is implemented, and started the pilot action here in Lower Austria with 2 platforms or 2 innovation ecosystems in the field of bioeconomy and aerospace. And now we are in the phase of building up these networks. Due to the problem of Corona crisis, there is the problem that we can't do it personally, so to implement a network and to get to know it's harder than in normal days. But due to the good program managers we have, we will see that in the end of this year we will have the first projects out of this. Thank you to all the partners for the open discussions, because it's very important for me to have a lot of experts who are discussing really openly the problems and encourage to do new steps to implement new measures, to implement new instruments in our regions. So thank you all for participating, and thank you for the collaboration and the good open discussions with you.
For example, universities were more based on teaching, and now universities are more based on research. They're not only universities, they're also research centers, which is also very important for us. But most of the, let's say, lecturers, professors, assistants, and most people that are going through the teaching process in the universities are now, of course, very much interested in research and transfer. I must say that from the point of view, from the part of the universities, there's a lot of interest in the transfer programs or the transfer projects, but we must arise that interest in the business. Because I think some of them, especially in the region of Castile and Leon, because they are, the businesses are small or medium-sized, it's very difficult for them to think that innovation is going to be part of their future.
El Fab Lab de la Universidad de Valladolid es un espacio de innovación y aprendizaje, un lugar para crear, aprender e inventar. Pertenecer a la red Fab Lab significa conectarse a una comunidad global de estudiantes, educadores, tecnólogos o investigadores en un intercambio de conocimientos que abarca más de 30 países y 24 zonas horarias. La misión del Fab Lab es proporcionar un espacio de fabricación digital que fomente la innovación dentro del entorno social de la Universidad de Valladolid. Actualmente despliega 5 objetivos fundamentales: fomentar el desarrollo de nuevos productos, servicios y experiencias, democratizar y dinamizar el acceso a herramientas de última generación para el desarrollo físico de ideas, incentivar el perfeccionamiento de prototipos funcionales orientados al mercado que resuelvan necesidades presentes en la sociedad, desarrollar un ecosistema de innovación en el entorno universitario y la sociedad en su conjunto, y contribuir al aprendizaje de nuevas competencias clave en el contexto de la formación universitaria de alumnos, profesores y grupos de investigación.
We decided to take part in InnoBridge because opening up to new inputs is always a good basis to improve innovation and research. We were convinced that sharing experience and best practices with other regions about policies could allow us to improve our instruments and methods supporting innovation. It's always challenging to exchange with other contexts and point of views, because it allows one to estimate whether some things may be done differently. A key point is also the opportunity to create networks and collaboration with other European partners.
InnoBridge has been a very interesting project because it enabled us to come into contact with other contexts and instruments supporting innovation. The exchange with the European partners reinforced our idea that fostering the cooperation between enterprises and research institutes is a relevant means to support innovation activities and R&D projects. Calls for proposals launched with ERDF funds fostering and requiring such cooperation have proved to be appreciated by the beneficiaries over the last years. This can be seen in the increased number of applications of R&D cooperation projects submitted. For our territory, this type of instrument has been lately particularly successful because we also have a university in Bolzano, the capital city of the province, and many brand new laboratories at the recently opened technology park. This type of infrastructure is the ideal location where research and business come together. The physical proximity and availability of both human and infrastructural resources foster such cooperation.
Welcome back. It's been fun working in small groups, right? And being able to see each other. Let me tell you what we try to do with these breakout sessions, apart from allowing you to really exchange with your colleagues throughout European regions. We've been trying to see an average typical European region. So this region that has the average GDP, the average growth, the average innovation performance, the average demographic picture, and trying to think about it in terms of what barriers and challenges are there to SME support and innovation, what good practices we could suggest to this region so that they could improve their policy mix, and finally, what policy recommendations we could draw based on our experience for the future benefit of all regions. Let's hear quickly back from the moderators of these groups who did a wonderful, fabulous job, and thank you for which. We'll hear first from Lavinia. Well, Lavinia moderated the group on barriers and challenges. So Lavinia, what are the main barriers and challenges that the typical European regions face when they try to promote their innovation and their R&D accessible to SMEs?
Yeah, and thanks to all the group of who participated in this topic, exploring barriers for access to market. We identified some barriers in regards to some aspects, and these are innovation, stakeholders, and regulations. What innovation regards, we said that the entrepreneurial capacity is connected also to the dimension of the enterprises. So there are examples of micro and small enterprises which are very innovative, but which sometimes do not have the strength then to reach international markets. So this is one aspect in regard to innovation. Then in regard to the aspect of the stakeholders, and this is the aspect which the participants focus most on. So we had some examples from the Council of Tampere region. The Council of Tampere region, for instance, is carrying out a mapping of the research infrastructure and what are those infrastructures offering in terms of services to the SMEs, but also to the citizenship and to the users. And they would like to see what how the services offered can be improved. And this is also an important aspect because, of course, a better cooperation between the research and the business help also, of course, the enterprises to have better product given by ameliorated product and R&D results. And another aspect is, so in this aspect of fostering the cooperation, that the Council of Tampere is doing is to try to enhance the fact that the beneficiaries of R&D have funds, work with also engage with SMEs in pilot actions, so to have more efficient projects. And another aspect which emerged in terms of in regard to the stakeholders is that the governmental organizations should support the matching between institutions, between the different actors of the ecosystem, as we heard this morning. So this aspect, I think, of the stakeholders of the interplay of the different actors was very much underlined, and this in order to have then products and services which can be then really sold on the international markets. So, and in regarding the regulations, we said that the barrier to the access are all the standards, all the technical regulations, all the product certifications that products have to display in order to be sold on international markets. Thank you.
To the whole group for this very structured feedback. And Thomas, now to you. Will you be able to offer this region and these challenges outlined by Lavinia some good practices?
So from my side, as you can see, I'm not Lavinia previously. We were in the group, we were dealing with some technical issues, so it took some time until everybody was there, and our moderation was designed very interactive and very game and playful. So it took us some time to get the energy. And from this point of view, I really have to thank you to all the people involved in the group as participants. It's good to have such kind of people, such mindset people in this group. And also very much thank you to the whole team in Sofia. It's magnificent what you do technically. So this is one. To the content, our deal was to get some best practices to refracture the whole InnoBridge project, and indeed we went to 3 best practices inspired by InnoBridge, and the first one was to have this Storia public-private fund for innovations. It's about matching public and private funds and to provide seed funding on a competitive basis for innovative cultural projects. And we have discussed it very quickly, very briefly, from a very optimistic view and a very pessimistic view. So this was gameful. Optimistic would be, it could be nice to engage citizens, to invest private money into projects, and to have a private engagement is rather fitting the needs of the citizens better than any state-oriented could be. On the other hand, on the pessimistic view, we had the challenge. It could be a challenge to have an active network of business angels, which is necessary for such kind of projects. And that's it. So we really went very quickly over it. A second best practice that we had in our discussion was an innovation festival, probably inspired by Malopolska. And what I learned here is that this festival is not only a 1 day or a 2 day and not focused only on companies or only on R&D institutions. So the festival is could be rather many days, a large audience, many target groups, from kids to students, to researchers, to entrepreneurs. This is also the positive side and positive attitude. And on the negative side, it might be that in the end it's only an innovation exchange and there's too little specific results for companies. And the third best practice that we went through was cut by time in our group, was the story startup capitalization, I think inspired by South Tyrolia. And it's more or less a call for a proposal for innovative startups. And the positive side was mobilizing experts, mentors, and not only the financial side. And the negative side, there was just no time. So in the end, there's a very positive best practice. So this is from our group. And thank you very much. As a person who was not directly involved in InnoBridge, it's very fun and very nice to be part of this conference and moderate such a group. Thank you.
Thank you to Thomas. Thank you really for the head start, because you really jumped right into it. But I'm glad you managed to sense some of the real partnership and fun feeling that existed in the project. And I very much like your approach of finding something very nice and something not so nice about every good practice, because there is some truth in both aspects, and that's important to keep in mind. And based on this, let's now move to the policy recommendations. Kerstin started from the very beginning that we would like to see some recommendations as heritage from this project. And let's see how the group moderated by Tina worked on those. Tina, are you ready to present quickly some of your policy recommendations?
I'm not quite sure about that, but I will try my best anyway. Thank you. Sepalina, I want to thank you and your whole team for the super work that you have done with the conference in these circumstances. In my section with the policy recommendations, we opened that photo of different wheels, the policy recommendations that were nominated and named in InnoBridge project. There were many of them, and we didn't have time to go through all of them. But firstly, we had a very excellent group. Lots of familiar faces, but also new ones, which I found particularly interesting. And I want to thank the whole team for the active comments and the inputs. I think we could have spent another 3-4 hours to discussing those recommendations easily. What was the main conclusion here was basically the same that Professor Lehne was explaining us earlier. Institutions need interaction to find ways to support innovation ecosystem. So basically, we had the first policy recommendations related to the common understanding. In the regions, to be able to support the innovation ecosystem, you have to create first the common understanding of the situation, not only for yourself but for the whole regional group of stakeholders, for the most important actors that can do something to support the ecosystem. To be able to create the common understanding, you need a space for that. Is it the digital? Is it the physical? How do you create a space for that? It doesn't happen just by sending emails. You need to create the circumstances for people, for actors to share their ideas, to create really the understanding of what is the situation, what are we actually developing here, where are we now, and where do we want to be in the future. It's a matter of transparency in a big scale. Also, it's definitely something that needs to be increased. It's a matter of trust issues, definitely. What we discussed also was that the communication needs to develop in the sense that it has to be clear and open between the actors. Clear in the sense was interesting that we often talk about open communication, but what is clear communication? We talked a lot about how to talk related to the listener, so that the listener hears. Is the listener a company? Is it a university actor? We all have our different ways to talk about these innovation issues, and you have to find a way so that everybody can at least as much as possible to understand what we are talking about. And the final thing was that in order to make a common understanding, you need data about the situation. You cannot just guess what's going on. And for that, you need an effective monitoring system to be able to commonly create and share the data of the region. Thank you.
Thank you, Tina, and thank you to your team as well. And as I told you, we also had another group working here physically at the Launchy space in Sofia, and the moderator was Denica Marinova, and we also talked here about policy recommendations. So let's hear from Denica. Are there some additional aspects that we need to keep in mind? Denica, could you come here, please?
Okay. Hello from us, from the live stage in Sofia. We have a few contributions to the policy recommendation discussions. So yes, we are agreed that SMEs are much worried about their financial position, jobs, and business survival. Therefore, a big share of the policy measures that were presented addressed this liquidity gap to support this recovery. On the other hand, SMEs are strongly represented in most of the sectors that are affected by the crisis, like the tourism, transportation, food, retail, etc. And the restrictions and lockdowns affect all aspects like production capacities, labor's access to workplace, the supply chains, and the demand for their goods and services. In this regards, we consider that measures that foster regional production, regional supply chain, together with capacity building measures that enhance digital culture of the involved SMEs are important to rebuild connections for their business partnerships and business operations. The crisis is also a disruptive moment to innovate, so we also discussed measures, the need of measures that support new business practices and models via, of course, digitalization of the work process, or having access to open data, and thus having opportunity to develop new marketing means. And this digitalization trend should be and can be very well balanced with some measures that foster resource efficiency in the SMEs, like and finding synergies with all these greening policies that are very trendy now and very well financed. And also there is a big room for social innovation to boost competitiveness after the COVID crisis. And last but not least, we all acknowledge the inventory of policy responses that was showcased by the InnoBridge regions, and also those presented by the Interreg Europe platform that foster SME resilience through connectivity of the ecosystem, all this flexibility of the support measures, and of course the lean administration. So this is more or less from us. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Denisa. And now it's time to wrap up. Even the most interactive and most fun event will have to come to an end. So in order to prepare us for this end, where we started and how to go from there, we've asked Daniela with ARC Fund to stay with us throughout the conference, take some notes, help us gain some insights, what we've actually been discussing and what we've actually achieved, and the way forward from here. So Dani, the floor is yours.
It's really a big challenge for me to wrap up and try to put in a nutshell this very intensive type of event. Of course, I did not manage to put it in a nutshell, but I managed to squeeze it into 6-7 nutshells. So I will try to share it as quickly as possible and then very synthesized. Number one, very interesting, very promising message from Interreg Europe about improving this balance between the structural funds and non-structural funds instruments, because it's very important that the structural funds reflect the European dimension, while the non-structural funds reflect some local specifics that need to be addressed. Number two, very important and highly appreciated by all participants and stakeholders, this type of mutual learning and exchange of experience, which is beneficial to everyone rather than inventing the wheel. Number three, I would say, is the need of very intensive, very open public dialogue that needs to focus on enabling efficient transformation into digitalization, Industry 4.0, sustainable development, greening of the economy, and so on. Number four is the hands-on approach that is needed to make all this translate into practical transformation. So not only capacity building and awareness raising, but rather give the know-how on this transformation to make it happen. Next, the need of enhancing interdisciplinary teams to enable this happen. And these are all areas that public instruments, measures, policies need to address. Last but not least, I would say, is the feedback on the public intervention and public instruments, because the lack of feedback sometimes does not allow for improving the measures, and of course, giving green light in the future programming period to this kind of exchange of experience and mutual learning and this type of projects would be, in our view, very useful for all the participants and the stakeholders. And this conference started with a message saying coming together is only the beginning. I would rather say that this, what we had today, is not a final conference, but rather the beginning of the InnoBridge process that we would like to project forward into the next programming period and perhaps sustain the partnership, but also extend it to other regions and increase this exchange of experience and learning. Thank you.
Thank you, Dani. Thank you very much. And I fully agree with this, that this, I hope, is a new beginning. Now, before finally wrapping up, two more things. One, I would like to show you once again the map of where all the participants today come from, this time with some additional information on it. So, do you see it now? You probably see it on your screen. If all of you were here in Sofia today, would have cost the planet nearly 55.5 tons of CO2. So we would love to have you here. It would have been great. It would have been incredible privilege and fun for us to be together. But look on the bright side. We saved so many emissions to the planet, nearly 5 tons of CO2. So in a way, we're already delivering on the European Green Deal, and that's a start. Secondly, all the resource materials and all the presentations from today's event will be uploaded both on the Project Space on Interreg Europe website as well as on the special project website, event website that we've created by the end of this week. As we heard earlier from Pilar, speed is important. So very quickly we'll upload all the information for everyone to see there. The regional videos are also there, so you can take your time to see what each of our regions has done. They will also be shown once again here on main stage after the end of the event. And that's more or less the end of the event. It should finish the way it started, with thanks and gratitudes to everyone engaged. All of you that participated today, it's been our privilege to share this online and physical space with you and discuss things with you and learn from each other. Special thanks to my wonderful InnoBridge partners for their contribution, for their cooperation throughout the project, and particularly with this final event. Incredible thanks to the fabulous team of Sofia Development Association. This event would not have been possible without each and every one of you. It's been a novel hybrid event for us, and we learned a lot. We innovated, so it was a job well done. Thank you so much. Special thanks to our technical assistants and our hosts here at the Lounge Space in Sofia. Thank you, guys. You were wonderful. Wouldn't have been able to manage without you, but we will learn and take your profession because these are the skills of the future. So once we'll be competitors. And that's all from us. Thank you once again. And I hope to see you again in the next project, in the next event, in the next network. Bye from us.
Welcome to Lower Austria. Lower Austria is one of the regions in the middle of Europe, and in the center of Lower Austria there is the capital city of Austria, Vienna. And so Lower Austria is a region with a lot